Much better.
You know, you could have told me you had your own shrine. You could have been a multi-denominational household.
Yeah, except the difference is I'm talking about one person while you out here claiming an entire continent.
Yes, the diaspora of
not even the whole continent, just like part of the continent.
Any parts that seem to emerge on Twitter, I definitely internalize and support. But Bo,
do you claim Freddie Mercury?
Why is that a thing? Wait, no, really? Is there something there?
They're South Asian.
We'll discuss this, but first, Robert Kraft, Bomani. Today, the Palm Beach County State Attorney's Office announced they have formally charged the Patriots owner with 2 misdemeanor counts of soliciting prostitution. Where does this all leave the NFL today?
Well, I think the NFL's in the same place that they were before, is that once this is adjudicated, they're going to have to figure out what to do with him, and a punishment is certainly in order, I think, for him on this, because there was a time where something like this would elicit laughter. Like, getting caught soliciting a prostitute was more embarrassing than anything else, but I think we are more sophisticated in the way that we view these things, and this just isn't some dude, allegedly, who was just trying to get something and pay for it. This is somebody who was complicit in the activities of a human trafficking ring. That's big, that's huge, and that merits punishment according to the NFL's personal conduct policy.
My brain went to humor when I first heard this news as well, but reading the New York Times article that came out this weekend, listening to the police today, they say the monsters are the men who are the clients here, and that they don't even think of the women involved as prostitutes. They think of them as victims and people to be rescued as part of an operation here, Bo. And for me, the question morally is, what did Bob Kraft know? How obvious was this? Because the police say that these are women who are perhaps in debt, right? They're women who came over to this country under other pretenses, people who fear for their families back home, and so they're not even cooperative. So do they go to this place because they know that the people involved won't speak, or is that something that they happen to overlook in the process?
I think that this is as obvious to those men as they wish for it to be. If they choose to give thought to anything involving these women, it becomes pretty obvious what's going on here. If you choose to think about the women and their humanity. Now, the problem is, I don't think that you go to the Orchids of Asia Day Spa because you think about the humanity of the women who happen to be there, right? And that's part of the problem that we have here, is very often we think of this as a victimless crime, and there are certainly elements where people are soliciting prostitutes where you could make that argument. This one just isn't one of those. And so if we're dealing with the league that wants to make it clear that they respect women and believe that women should be treated a different way, then this is right in line with what they claim their agenda is.
Yeah, they're talking, the police are, about women who were sleeping in the building, who were cooking on hot plates in the back, who had poor hygiene, who in some cases were dealing with up to 1,000 men a year. And how blind any of us want to be to that is, I think, a separate and pressing question from what the NFL must now do, Bo, which is figure out a way to actually do some damage in terms of a punishment, because how do you punish a billionaire?
Well, you punish him by suspending him from his team, because Bob Kraft cares about being associated with his team. He cares about being in the box. He cares about being on camera. Like, why do you think he's going to the Rotten Nation brunch, right? He's going there because he's the owner of the New England Patriots. He gets a measure of cachet from being that dude. So that is the thing that you can take away from him. The thing is, Kraft is making this difficult for him because he's running the I didn't do it route, at least as of right now, because this thing is, you got to be going in, you got to be coming out. How do you know what happens? Well, the police seem to have a pretty good idea of what happened in the 15 minutes that he was in there. You can't get no massage in 15 minutes, Bob. Not one worth paying for.
No. And the question, obviously, too, is how do you punish a billionaire financially, right? Let alone one who's your boss, because Jim Irsay got docked $500,000. $500,000 to Bob Kraft is nothing, but the idea that Bob Kraft, in terms of the legal proceedings, gets to avoid the perp walk, gets to avoid the mugshot. Is there something, as you say, that could trigger some level of shame?
Well, that's all this is shame is what they're operating with. It's not going to be the money. Like, they're going to have to do something to make this, like, hit if you want it to hit. It's going to be something like you have to be away from the team for a year. That's the sort of thing that it's going to take in order for it to register.
Right, because draft picks, for instance, that seems unfair to everybody else.
Well, they're not going to do that on a matter that's not of a competitive edge. But shame is what they have on their side. And I'm telling you, man, the government ain't pushing up on these super rich dudes unless they really think they got it. Next name is LeBron James. After losing to the Anthony Davis-less Pelicans Saturday night, LeBron answered some questions about his young teammates very honestly.
When you don't really you've never been there or know what it takes to actually, you know, shoot for something like that, sometimes you're afraid to get uncomfortable. In the last few years, you know, everybody's so accustomed to the losses that I'm just not accustomed to. You know, like, is basketball, is that the most important thing while we're doing this? You know, is this the most important thing in your life at this time? You know, I know it's going to be very challenging, just because of the experience that, you know, the roster had at that point in time. You know, I knew it was going to be challenging from that sense, but I felt like we could still play, you know, better basketball.
Pablo, how should the young Lakers be feeling today?
Well, should and how will they feel are two different things, because I think they should realize that LeBron James is not the problem on the Lakers. LeBron James is, you know, LeBron James, and so you guys should check yourselves. But in the process of checking themselves, Bo, they're going to listen to a guy who basically said, you don't care about basketball enough. And from a certain perspective, if I'm any of those young guys, I'm thinking to myself, this is kind of like hearing a competitive eater tell me to diet. Because LeBron James is A&Ring 2 Chainz' record. He's having Anthony Davis on his HBO talk show. He's doing all this other stuff, right? But in LeBron's defense, he is, in fact, LeBron James. He delegates. He cares about basketball more than the other stuff. It's just that I don't know if that will motivate more than it does alienate.
Well, the question is, what discussions did he have with them when we weren't around before it got to this point? That is what I wonder. Was this like a last resort sort of thing? But this is an important distinction. He didn't say that basketball needed to be the only thing in their lives, just the most important thing in their lives.
That's right.
And I think the question that he's asking, and we saw this when he was there in Cleveland the first time with those young dudes, is, do you realize what we're playing for here? Do you realize what the stakes are? Because the Lakers do have a bunch of young dudes who have not been expected to win yet. Like, there hasn't been a minute of Brandon Ingram's career where there was an expectation of winning before LeBron showed up. Kuzma, all these other dudes. And so I could see him looking at them and being like, hey, man, it's getting real right now. This isn't another one of these seasons where you can just miss the playoffs and we go get another draft pick. No, we got to get this thing here done right now. And do you get how important it is? It is possible that they do not.
Yeah, they may not. And the tricky thing is, beyond the injuries that LeBron alluded to elsewhere in his little scrum there, the young guys actually haven't been the worst parts of the team. The young guys have been struggling here and there, but on a plus-minus basis, they're positive. It's the free agents. It's Rajon Rondo, it's JaVale McGee, it's Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, it's Lance Stevenson. Those are the guys who haven't really been carrying their weight. And so when it comes to the locker room and the team, it does feel like maybe there's a little conflation of two possibly distinct stories.
Or what the young guys have to get is, yeah, those old guys aren't playing that well. That still means you have to play better. It ain't about weight, it's about the outcome.
The last name is Ole Miss. Bo, on Saturday, 8 Ole Miss basketball players took a knee during the national anthem in protest of pro-Confederacy rallies happening nearby. Let's watch.
Now, you notice the first young man knelt, and then from there, others do it in solidarity with that one. And that one is a G. Good gracious.
Yes.
Shout out to that one dude standing next to them like, no, I'm standing. I ain't doing nothing.
No. Some guys joined in later.
Look at my man, he keeps looking around.
Right. Like, oh, we are. This is on camera, right? This will be on the internet.
My mama watching this.
But Bo, what's your reaction to this kind of a story?
My reaction to the story is about the reactions to the story, and the question that I have for people is, why do you care? And I do not ask that rhetorically. I ask that sincerely. Why do you care? What we can't do is take pictures like these and know that they will inflame some people and then decide it's a big story just because it's going to make some people mad. What you have with these people who came into Oxford, and look, Ole Miss tries its best to separate itself from all the Confederate nostalgia stuff. They've really tried to push away from that. They see themselves as more of a progressive bastion within the state of North Carolina. But look, they still call themselves the Rebels. That state flag still has the stars and bars on it. Like, if you really want to come talk about this as a big story, then you need to talk about what all of this is that makes it into a story in the first place. If all you got is this protest that has charged up America, then what you're doing is exploiting something that is very real and going about it in a cowardly way.
Yeah, there's a door to unlock here, behind which a lot of Mississippi history is there for us to dive into. But Kermit Davis, it's worth noting, at the beginning of the season, before the season, volunteered that his players would kneel for the anthem and would not kneel for the anthem and would respect the flag.
When he took the job out of nowhere.
Correct. And now, after this, he said a different sort of a tune, if we can listen to that.
This was all about the hate groups that came to our community and try to spread racism and bigotry, in our community. It's created a lot of tension for our campus. I think our players made an emotional decision to show these people they're not welcome on our campus. And we respect our players' freedom and ability to choose that.
And Bo, what's interesting to me is that he seemed far more conciliatory towards the gesture because of the proximity of the protest and the rally to his own home, to his building. But to me, the question has always been, don't you see that that's how people anywhere who've done the same thing feel about this? This is not abstract and far off. This is close to home for everybody who has been doing this.
He was conciliatory about this because he had the choice of choosing between the people outside and the people on his team. He was conciliatory about this because he's going to have to go into homes and try to get people to come, and they don't want it to look like you choosing those cats over your own players, right? So I think it was easy for him to think that when he took that job, oh, y'all tell them we're going to stand for the national anthem. They'll love me for that one. What the hell you gonna do when these cats do this right now? Unless you gonna come behind and pull them up by that collars, you're gonna have to stand by them because that's your squad.
And up next, can Kyrie Irving do the thing we need him to, which is save Boston and make talking about sports a lot easier?
Oh, okay, Noon is also a podcast. Bomani has one too, and so do I. Pablo is a very nice person.
No, not really.
Well, I did, and here's something that you might enjoy from our colleague, Alex Rodriguez.
Oh, he still work here?
He's still working here, and also wandering away as the moneymakers left behind, Bo.
I gotta say, he's settling as nicely as he can into his new role as Arm Candy. He just forgot, oh, that's right, I am the other person.
Yeah, so he goes into the Poppy Lebitard for some reason.
Yeah, what is he looking for?
There. I don't know, but somewhere Sammy Sosa's like, I can't get into Wrigley, and this guy's at the Oscars.
All right, first quote, because I'm here. Said Kyrie Irving when asked why he believes the Celtics will be fine in the playoffs. Listen.
It's starting to get to a point where you're concerned that the struggle you guys had over the weekend in the playoffs?
No, I'll be fine.
Why do you think that?
Because I'm here.
Oh. Okay, Pablo, how should the young Celtics feel hearing this?
Well, they should feel like that is the same reason why they're not so optimistic about the rest of the year. Because he's here. Because last year without him, Bo, they took LeBron James to Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. They lost by 8. Kyrie Irving, for all of his talents, still seems to be the sun around which the dysfunction on this team orbits.
I think that we could say, is it fair to say the Celtics are the most disappointing team in the NBA so far?
Ooh, I think they are,
I think we
right?
saw
65 games, they were saying.
Yeah, we saw this as a team that could win 60 games. They're 5th in the East right now in a conference that we don't think is necessarily that strong. Kyrie's in the tricky place where they did so well without him. And by the way, he's playing really well this year, right? He is playing very, very well, but he wants to be the leader in a way that these guys have not said that he is the leader. He sees like, yo, this is what he always wanted. He wanted guys to play around him. And these dudes are like, yo, you on the team just like I'm on the team.
And Bo, look at the opponent.
Oh, is that the Bulls?
It's the Bulls. It's Sheriff Boylan's Bulls, and Zach LaVine and Lauri Markkanen were both dropping like 40 and 30. And meanwhile, Jaylen Brown, how do you feel about this? I feel like you probably feel the way you did when you complained about this earlier this year. Marcus Smart, after this game, despite Kyrie saying all this stuff, also was talking about how he doesn't know how this is going to get better, which echoes, of course, what Marcus Morris was saying, right?
But this is also something LeBron James would say, right? LeBron James would say, because I'm here. And guess what? Why do you think the Lakers are going to make the playoffs?
Because LeBron James is there.
Yeah, we're on the same boat. Kyrie says that, and we're like, no, you ain't got receipts.
Next quote. He wants to play. He loves being at Duke. Said Coach K about Zion Williamson. Bo, Zion is not playing tonight, but should he come back and attempt to do so when ready?
If he is healthy, yes, I think he should play. I went through this with Kyrie Irving when he got injured in his year at Duke, and I was like, no, there's no reason for you to play. But you did sign up for this. You did decide that this is what you were going to do. Now, the real problem that we have is not that he's playing for free, is that he's playing for free for an enterprise that makes a boatload of cash. If he was not playing college basketball, you know where he would be? Somewhere playing basketball for free. This could have happened in a workout or anywhere else. We wouldn't have been offended in the same way. Basketball players play basketball. If you assume there's a value to him playing in the first place, then you think he should come back and play once healthy.
And also, Zion is a human being who is still around a team full of his friends, full of a coach he really does admire, full of a campus that he respects. What should happen, though, because what you said is right, the dynamic is problematic because everyone else is making all of the money around him. Just be understand that Zion is being generous in so doing, right? It's not that he shouldn't play or should play. No, he should do whatever he wants, but just understand if he decides to play, he's doing so out of a generosity.
Right, but here's my question. If he says he shouldn't play, should R.J. Barrett play? Should Reddish play? Why should any of them play according to that logic? Now, if you say that none of them should play, that's fine, but understand that there's a logical inaccuracy that's going on here if you think only that one guy is the one who should not play. If you think there's a value in him playing basketball and getting better, then if he's healthy, he should play.
Slippery slope.
Coming up next, watch a goalkeeper punk his coach. Almost got me.
Really?
It's the altitude, man. It's the altitude. It almost got me. Almost.
What part?
I don't even remember. It was like a couple random times. That's how I know it's the altitude.
We'll listen to Queen together and we'll find out. We'll relive that.
Wait, it don't work like that on the ground.
Not with that attitude. Today's number, 80 million euros. That's how much Chelsea paid for 24-year-old keeper Kepa Arrizabalaga in August. Yesterday, just a few minutes before the penalty shootout against Man City, his manager Maurizio Sarri tried to sub Kepa out. Let's see how the most expensive goalie ever reacted, Bo.
A lot of accents there, buddy.
So many. A lot of sounds.
To the last minute.
There is the manager. He's making a substitution because apparently there was cramping involved.
No, apparently not.
No, no, no is the answer from the richest goalie ever.
Yeah.
Yo, man, like this, can you imagine this happening in like baseball, right?
Or the NBA.
Or the NBA. Because this has now become that video where like those guys are just like flipping each other off that was fake ultimately.
They did it for 2.5 minutes. And then finally he realized he lost. And so now he's ready to dip. He looked like Spike Lee when the Green Book won. That's right.
There he is.
They always make a driving movie when I got here. And then he came back. They're like, no, you come back after the speeches.
Yeah, and the goalie won. The goalie won the power struggle. Except this is how the power struggle ended up playing out.
Who was successful from the spot.
Penalty kicks.
You say he's good?
He is great.
Successful.
Except you can't let that happen after you demand to play. And Bo, this is a manager whose job security is in
stop doing the
question.
huffy dance and focus.
All he seems to have, there it is.
He stopped. Hey,
electric sliding in that way. And, after the game, notably, both the manager and Kepa decided to say, oh, it was a misunderstanding because, you know, I thought there was an injury, but it's also kind of what you would say if you just got punked by a player. Here we go. Save your own job.
But we got no way. Like, how do we ever know this? Because it would be a plausible thing. He thought I was cramping. I wasn't cramping. I'm telling him I'm not cramping. But I tell you this, my man, the coach, did not realize that as it was happening.
Correct.
He wasn't running out there. I'm so mad that I thought he was cramping, and it turns out he's fine.
No, he wasn't telling all of his friends, you hear this guy cramp? No.
Hey, man, sometimes you're not really in charge. That's the thing you got to realize. In closing, MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred has said the Atlanta Braves are taking steps to take out the tomahawk chop. Woohoo! Wait till the commission sees the shirts the Braves are selling.
Oh, no.
You see these?
No.
Yeah.
Really?
In case you couldn't figure out how to do the tomahawk chop from the same people who like put the stuff in the pamphlets on the airplane to tell you how to buckle your seatbelt. There you go.
That's right. And this is a problem, Bo. I mean, first off, Nike, come on, like, we're holding you to a higher progressive standard these days, so not a great look for you. But in Cleveland, for instance, right? They said no more Chief Wahoo, but they're still selling merch, and this seems to be of a piece with that philosophy.
Well, what this tells you, by the way, is just how egregious Chief Wahoo is, where they're looking at this stuff and being like, okay, maybe we can let it ride, but yo, not the skin and grinning. We can't have that part there. But dude, all you got to do is stop. People aren't going to stop coming to your games because you don't do the tomahawk chop anymore. You didn't even start doing it until 1991.
No, there's a whole this is a heritage thing and not a hate thing, which is always problematic. When Rob Manfred, by the way, just got awarded something by a Native American group for getting rid of the thing that's now on the t-shirt.
No, but seriously, do you know why the Braves started doing this?
No, I do not.
Deion came and started doing it. This is not something that they had been doing forever. Deion was like, yo, we used to do this, it'll work here, okay, cool. And then it wound up catching on. So this is not even going back like we've been doing this forever. You can stop. It's okay.
And meanwhile, I haven't seen Deion do that in quite a while.
That's fair.
In closing, Draymond Green sprained his ankle during Saturday's game against the Rockets, and if you're just learning that news right now, don't feel too bad, because it took Steve Kerr a while to make that discovery too. Let's watch. So this is Warriors-Rockets. That is Draymond Green, and just watch Steve Kerr, Bo. Just watch him.
Left leg or foot.
He's very focused on the game. So focused, in fact, that this is still happening and still... Oh, wait a minute. Yo!
Why are we isolating Steve Kerr, though? Ron Adams still seemed to be carrying.
Watch Mike Brown, too. Mike Brown suddenly looks like this thing has landed at his doorstep. But my God, if you're Draymond and that's how you feel going into a contract negotiation, ugh.
Highly questionable. Coming up next.